What's going on, guys? Nathan here, back again with another Magic the Gathering video. Today is going to be a little bit of a different format of a video, as evidenced by the background here, coming to you live from the somewhat pixelated beaches of Southern California. So today I wanted to chip into the power level discussion where the power 10 scale is commonly used in games of Commander to rate decks and use that as sort of the shortcut numerical intro for a deck when initially describing it during Rule Zero conversations. And it is generally pretty controversial because some people like it, some people think it provides a good range to settle on a common power at the table in order to avoid feel bads or pub stomping, while others think that it is too wide and it just doesn't serve that much of a purpose, and that your discussion should instead be focused on various qualifiers of the deck, such as fast mana tutors, etc. And I wanted to chip in to this discussion and actually propose a brand new system that I think solves the problems of the power 10 scale while keeping the general positives of the power 10 scale. So just in general, I am a proponent of the power scale because you can use it as a range finder to ensure that your table is playing within a range of a target power level. So the nice thing is that a power scale allows for an objective checklist that allows for decks to be graded by both new players and experienced players on the types of cards that players generally care about, which is tends to be fast mana tutors and combos, particularly like 2-card combos, and the general speed of your win, the general turn by which you can close out the game. Another benefit of having a power scale is that it's easy to understand, easy to conceptualize as the first qualifier or attribute when being introduced to a deck for the first time, because the human brain naturally wants to fit things into little boxes, little categories. And so I think it's necessary, much like in the business world, it's useful to have an executive summary as the first piece of information to record about a deck. And then after that, get into the details and qualifiers that will further allow the audience to form their opinion of the deck, such as, my deck runs 5 tutors, a soul ring, and aims to assemble lethal board state by turn 6, or something like that. So in other words, both the summary and the detail are important when explaining your deck, and I'd like to focus on the tuning of that initial number grading in this video. So to address those who think that a power level rating detracts from the Rule Zero discussion by preventing further description about the deck's attributes, I just want to be very clear that I think it's important that introducing a deck should include a 1 to 2 sentence description of its general game plan and levels of interaction after giving that quick number rating. So both are important in the deck's introduction, but it's the number rating component that I want to focus on today. The primary argument against the Power 10 scale that I've seen online is that it's too big and the number differences are not meaningful as a result. So for example, what is the difference between a Power 1 deck and a Power 3 deck? And I'll have up on the screen here the grand description, I think, that somebody posted on Reddit several years ago that I think is probably the best description to date that somebody has made of the Power 10 scale. But the problem is that without sort of reading all of these intense descriptions, what is the difference between a Power 1 deck and a Power 3 deck, right? What differentiates a 6 from a 7? These are very hard questions to answer on that scale, and frankly, I do agree with those concerns. And I would actually take these concerns a bit further by pointing out that this does not do any favors for new players in particular, because a Power 10 scale suggests a level of precision that most people can't really agree on. So if most people can't agree on what makes a 6 instead of a 7, then that could lead to some feel bads if a newer player claims that their deck is a 6, and then one of their opponents accuses them of, trying to pub stomp by playing like a power level 7, which they may construe or misconstrue rather. So simply put, that's a level of precision. The Power 10 scale suggests a level of precision that I don't think is achievable within a game as complex as Magic. Now, detractors to the Power 10 scale also point to the lower end of the scale being a useless metric because most decks are played at or above a precon level. In other words, the 1 to 4 end of the scale is almost never used because nobody really cares if your jank is a 1 or a 4, right? Like, what is a 1 exactly? A literal pile of cards that is like 0 win con. Like, nobody plays that. So nobody really cares the difference between a 1 and a 4. It's all just jank, right? Jank just sort of fits into one giant category. So for that reason, and the reasons I've listed already, I'd like to propose a solution that solves both of these problems. Simply shrink the power 10 scale to a power 5 scale and make the labels as follows. 1. Jank, which would be your chair tribal decks, your ladies looking to the left decks, your random piles of cards. Jank is all encompassing and generally is unfocused and lacks a focused win con. Number 2, precons. So these are simply going to be, if you have a precon that you have purchased, yes, they do differ in power level quite a bit, but generally people know kind of what that precon level is at in the 2023 and 2024 type of precons, and so you can sort of conceptualize what that would look like if you haven't modified it, or maybe modified it with 2 to 5 cards. Then number 3 would be battle cruiser casual. This is where the vast majority of decks are going to fall into. So this would be your battle cruiser decks like a Yarok or Ishin. Generally in this category, you probably wouldn't have fast mana. You would have some tutors. You would probably have some like 3 to 4 card infinite combos, and then either no stacks or light stacks, right? This is the level of power that most people like to play at their LGS. Then number 4, we ratcheted on up to high power casual. So this would be some of the more efficient or quote-unquote broken commanders such as Ur-Dragon, Yuriko, Narset, where you are running fast mana. You probably have a lot of tutors for your deck consistency. You are probably running some 2-card combos, and you can see stacks within this power level. So these decks are going to be very optimized and pretty quick. And then number 5 is just going to be CEDH, right? And that's the easiest category to explain. Just anything goes. So that's the 1 to 5 scale. And with this scale, I think we've solved many complaints of the power 10 scale. First, the lower end of the spectrum has been collapsed, making the entirety of the scale more relevant and more meaningful. Second, the average of 3, that right down the middle score, is now representative of the actual average power level that most tables play at. Third, we've eliminated the added noise of the casual power levels by eliminating 6s and 7s and just grouping them together as simply casual. And I think this makes it easier for players to have one number represent a general range of power level, where 3s can range from your upgraded precons to custom built battle cruiser decks. And personally, I think a range of power levels at a table is perfectly adequate because, and this might be a bit of a hot take, I think that in general, casual commander games, the winner is mostly determined by each player's threat assessment and ability to politic. So oftentimes the quietest mouse gets the cheese, so your upgraded precon can in fact compete with a tuned Yarok deck, for example, because the Yarok deck will pop first and receive the bulk of the interaction first. So I think you can have a range for what we would consider a 3 casual battlecruiser style of deck. Conversely, some folks might argue that the downside of a power level 5 scale is that too much nuance is lost. And my argument against that concern is that the description of your deck should take that role of adding the nuance, right? Which brings us back to what I said in the beginning of the video, which is that a perfect rule 0 conversation includes 2 things: the numerical grading for easy categorization, and then the exposition of the deck's game plan and other things like that, whether the deck includes fast mana, tutors, 2-card combos, and stacks. So that part of the conversation is where the nuance can be had, and we can keep the numerical grading system simple and broad instead of nitpicking the numerical numerical system itself. That's my proposition to you all, and I sincerely hope a power level 5 system catches on within the broader community. As a man of my word, this is how I'll be rating my own decks for that portion of the Rules Zero conversation, which I've already done actually in my deck showcase video, which you can watch here. Let me know what you think of a Power 5 skill down in the comments below. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you look forward to more of my content. I'm Nathan. You've been watching Salty Productions, and this is me signing out. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you in the next one.